Today's hearing will examine what we call the emerging issues involving child online exploitation and the evolving offenders that seem to keep up to date on everything they can do to harm these young people. As technology changes and evolves, so do bad actors who use it to commit all types of crime. This is especially true in child exploitation space. Gone are the days of ordering child exploitation material from overseas by mail. Now, child exploitation material is readily available online through various file sharing platforms, through direct access to victims and domestic and international websites and groups such as quote unquote 764. Not only has technology changed, but today's online child offenders have changed as well. Today's online offender is more violent, more cruel, and more shocking than offenders just 20 years ago. Offenders will manipulate, pressure, harass, and seek to control vulnerable children through extortion, blackmail, and shame. That conduct is commonly called sextortion. Offenders extort children for money or other things of value, or to manipulate them to commit harmful acts, to live stream or record for others to watch. Today's offenders target younger children, many between the ages of 12 and 15, but some as young as 5 and 6, and maybe in some cases even younger. Offenders exploit multiple victims, causing more pain, causing humiliation and degradation to more people than ever before. They leave families of victims in insufferable pain and despair and cause lifetime of recovery for many victims. Offenders feel emboldened to carry out their illegal conduct on our children because of access to private, hidden online groups of like-minded people who share their sick desire to harm and exploit children. Sadly, offenders often operate under the cover of secrecy, making it even more difficult for law enforcement to identify them and bring them to justice. They often focus on vulnerable populations, such as those with mental health issues, lack of strong family or community ties, or other insecurities. Offenders will often disguise their true identity and pretend to be of similar age or background to their targeted victims in order to gain their trust. Offenders seek an online relationship with a child to exploit them for money, for sexual images, or to cause them to commit harm to themselves or to others. When offenders are eventually caught by law enforcement, prosecutors charge them with the most appropriate charges. However, there are no specific laws to address the terrible and shocking acts conducted by gore groups such as 764 and those engaged in sextortion. 2 of the 3 bills that I introduced today will address these offenders. My first bill, called Ending Coercion of Children and Harm Online, ECHO for short, will address the horrific conduct that these gore groups do when they target children to commit violent acts like injuries to animals, self-harm, and suicide. The second bill, called the Stop Sextortion Act, will hold these people who engage in online threatening acts of sextortion toward children accountable under the same law which addresses child sexual abuse material. Finally, when offenders are convicted of child sex abuse material offenses, less than 1/3 of the cases are sentenced within the current sentencing guidelines. Simply put, then, the current sentencing guidelines are outdated and disregarded by most federal judges because they do not adequately account for common offenders' characteristics that differentiate the bad from the worst online child exploiters. That bill has the title Sentencing Accountability for Exploitation, or the SAFE Act. Will require the Sentencing Commission to draft and revise the child sexual abuse material guidelines to include many of the aggravating factors we now see with today's online offenders. Those factors include encryption or other masking techniques were used, or whether the offender was part of an online group to commit the offense, just to name a few. This bill will provide the much-needed guidance to the Sentencing Commission of our government to overhaul the U.S. or the child sexual abuse material guidelines in a meaningful way to distinguish offender behavior.